Well, welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. How's everybody doing today, chat? As I just get into the window I need to be in. Thought we might start out by checking out what's going on in a certain creepy-ass skater cult compound in West Virginia. Timcast IRL says Gen Z is giving up, embracing socialism. Trump is losing the youth. And amazingly, there's no all caps in this, so it must be serious. I find it interesting. This is, I'm actually kind of interesting that Tim Pool is admitting this, because for the most part, Tim Pool does this thing every once in a while where it's like, look, Gen Z men are all conservatives. Look, we found a study that shows that they're all conservative. All, like, 20% of them are conservatives. So women are going to have to start sleeping with right-wingers now. But now apparently he's decided that's not the case. I'm very curious how this is going to work.
Harvard, actually. It's the Harvard...
Oh, the Harvard Youth Poll.
Youth poll, and this story is big because Gen Z is largely giving up. What they find...
Largely giving up. Meaning what exactly?
Is that Gen Z has defined their generation by financial, political, and interpersonal instability.
So, there's a lot of continuity between them and the previous couple of generations, then.
It's a defining feature of daily life, shaping their outlook on the country and their own futures. And right now, 57% of Gen Z think the country is on the wrong track. This includes younger conservatives who are not pro-Trump. Not all of these guys are groypers, but certainly those that are not in favor of what Trump...
Well, that's a bold statement right there. Not all of the respondents to the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics youth poll are groypers.
...is doing. So what does this country look like with 80 million, well, it's about 78 million Gen Z who don't like Trump? They don't...
Well, I mean, they're in good company there because most people don't like Trump.
Don't like Democrats.
Again, they're in good company. I mean, this isn't a Gen Z thing. Everybody fucking hates them.
What does that become in 10 years when these people are going to be in their late 30s? They're going to be going into their 40s in 10 years.
Like, he thinks this is new. That just means that yet another generation is saying this. Like, I mean, you can go back well before Trump to the, like, 90s, and you would find very similar results.
Right now, I think what oldest Gen Z is about 27, 28 years old. Mm-hmm. So this is, they are entering the peak of their lives where they should have families and homes, and what are they doing? Living with their parents?
Will you ever have a young generation that agrees with the government? I think...
Who is this?
I think it's a very natural evolvement of people in this kind of age group where they...
Okay, he's got somebody German on here who says evolvement, which is a new one.
Just have to be contrarians and they don't like what's going on in the government. I think as they grow naturally into more conservative values and...
How is that? Okay, that's natural how?
Starting to think about having a family and actually being more comfortable in life and asking for more security and your stable living conditions.
I think the point is that they don't have those. I think that's kind of the point here.
That often makes them more united in a more conservative fashion. So I think it's this kind of rebellious phase in a way. I also understand why they do feel so.
Chat, if anyone knows who this is, I am not familiar, and I've not seen her in the Tim Pool slop pond before.
Insecure. I mean, the economy is terrible, and that has a huge impact, especially on the younger generations. And as soon as they feel that these issues, especially those who are tending more towards the left, they're asking for higher taxes because it doesn't impact them. They don't have to worry about it. So I think these issues, I think they will...
Well, I think they're asking for more than that, though, and the reason they're asking for it is maybe it does impact them somehow.
They will tend more towards the middle as they grow older, but at the same time, like I mentioned
Hello,
before,
Badger.
They will form their own movement, but it doesn't necessarily have to be completely opposite to what Trump is currently promoting or what...
Well, I mean, it sounds like it probably would be, though, since none of them like him.
We stood for during the time that we have been promoting the right for the past years. I think it's going to repeat itself, or at least rhyme itself with what we were promoting. So I don't think it's something that we have to be scared of. I think it's more something where we have to guide the younger generation. I would like.
Well, it sounds like they're not particularly interested in your guidance, judging from this. Hello, River Rune.
Be more of a voice for the younger generation rather than somebody who condemns them.
That's what Tim Pool has claimed to be all along, though.
Demonizes them.
Right, but the problem is the Trump administration needs to win, or I shouldn't say the Trump, Republicans win elections in the United States through older voters.
Well, mostly they win elections because the Democrats throw them, though. I mean, it's gerrymandering. There's been the occasional bit of voter fraud that they've done. They love to accuse other people of it, but they're the only ones who have actually done it in a way that that influences an election, at least in the past generation or so. And they did it twice in a row, in fact. That's how George W. Bush got in and stayed in. But, yeah, so they mostly just win elections. When they do, it's by default.
Younger voters, not only is the younger demographic smaller than the older demographic because people weren't having kids, but the older demographic is more likely to vote in general. So you've got two problems. If you go to the boomers, which is going to be the most active voting bloc for 2026, and say, we need to get the price of homes down, they're going to go, whoa, 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 whoa. That's...
Wait. Okay, so we asked we've been doing this all wrong, chat. Apparently, the way you get rid of housing inflation is you just ask the boomers.
That's where all my money is.
Yeah.
If my home goes down in value, I lose my retirement. If you go out and say, we're going to make the prices of homes go up, then the young people are like, well, I'm screwed.
Well, I mean, he's just realizing this. He's just realizing that housing inflation completely screws anyone out of a house who was trying to get one.
And I think that's the move they're making. Politicians in the United States are basically saying, always favor the old. Social Security can never be touched.
They're not doing that. They're literally not doing that.
Young people are saying, I'm being taxed into believing and I have no money and I don't get that. Don't let prices drop on houses because old people the boomers have three houses. Not all of them. But around...
Yeah, I think possibly not all of the boomers have 3 houses. I think that is actually probably a safe bet.
And 75% of boomers own homes, and many of them own more than one. So it's always going to favor this, and they're going to live longer. So Gen Z, I think that's why we see this data. They're basically saying, you have built a system to extract from us, and we will never see that value again.
Yeah, it's the wages.
Well, I mean, it's almost as if capitalism is screwing over the working class.
Have stopped going up. There's a stagnation when it comes to the way that they can make money, and then
wait, what did you say? The wages stopped?
Have stopped going up.
Well, yeah, they stopped going up. Non-managerial real wages stopped going up to any significant degree in 1973, is the thing. I mean, it's good that he's noticed this now, but literally, if you were born after 1973, if you entered the workforce after 1973, you have worked in an economy in which working people have basically never had a super inflationary pay rise. Certainly not at the aggregate level.
There's a stagnation when it comes to the way that they can make money, and then they've taken out $200,000 in student loan debt, which then pushes them back into favor of the government. Even if you're pushing back against the government now, the
into favor of the government?
Government has found a way to reinstitute itself in your life no matter what. Even if you're successful, even if you get a job making a good amount of money, you're still in debt slavery.
Yeah, except that's not actually making people happy with he thinks that the government's refusal over successive administrations to do anything to actually address the student debt crisis is going to make young people favor the government?
There's no way out.
Indeed.
Well, I mean, there is. It's called just writing it down. The Higher Education Act actually gives the Department of Education, the Secretary of Education, the authority to just write it all down. Like, literally all of it, right now.
So when I see this and they say interpersonal instability, you've got social media apps that are destroying social interaction. You've got a financial crisis.
By the way, remember to follow me on Twitter and Rumble and Truth Social.
Going back to COVID, I mean, technically even before that when they were little kids, and they can't own homes.
I don't think any of this is a condemnation of Gen Z. I don't. I think.
Oh, well, wait. Of course it isn't. Why would that be a condemnation of Gen Z, though?
Most people now, especially millennials, they look at what's happening to Gen Z and they're like, I can absolutely see, because we saw the beginning of that with the financial crisis in 2008. It's like people talk a lot about how people in these spaces condemn Gen Z. I don't think that's what it is. I think most people look at the nihilism.
I mean, it doesn't really sound like nihilism, though. But, I mean, I just find it interesting. This is one of the things that always is striking to me. Because just even acknowledging that actually if your working life has been spent, no earlier than the late 90s, early 2000s, if that's when you started working, that you've basically had a big fucking wrecking ball taken to everything you built up repeatedly, because we keep on having these supposedly once-in-a-generation economic crises that wipe everything out. I mean, and it's interesting because actually you will see more acknowledgement of that on the far right. They don't want to do anything worthwhile about it. They want to just, blame immigrants for it or blame trans people or whatever for it. But they will at least occasionally acknowledge it. Whereas, like, you listen to sort of mainstream liberals, and you would get the idea that things were mostly great until Trump fucked them up. And yes, he's fucked up a lot of shit, but it sucked before that. But they don't want to admit that it all sucks, because then they would have to admit that they're not doing anything about a situation that sucks.
That's coming from a lot of American Gen Zs, and they say that makes perfect sense to me. But it feels in a lot of ways like they feel like it was orchestrated by the government post-2008 to actually create the situation that we're in now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, post-2008, the government did actually bail out the ruling class, not hold any of them accountable for the massive fraudulent activities that they were engaged in, and refused to do anything at all to actually reinstitute any of the safeguards that had been in place until Bill Clinton took them away, to prevent shit like that happening again. So, I mean, the government did kind of play a role in fucking everybody over, because they work for capitalists.
I mean, look, the government is responsible for a significant portion of this, whether it be the incentivizing people that didn't have the funds or the credit rating to apply.
I find this fascinating, because, I mean, to hear these guys slagging off the government when the government is their guy.
Homes before the housing market crash, or the way that they've handled the economy since. They spent 10 years just printing money, doing quantitative easing, which is the main driver of income inequality that people feel. They feel
no, it isn't. I mean, it hasn't helped, but no, it isn't. The main driver of economic inequality is that people's wages have not gone up at the same time as productivity's been through the roof.
Like, they don't have as much
because we live in capitalism.
Money, and they feel like the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And
I don't think they just feel like that, though, dog. I think that's maybe just... Oh, well, okay, so there was a whole Wall Street deregulation binge in Clinton's second term, especially. And if you remember back in the days of the global financial crisis, when that was being discussed, you might remember Glass-Steagall. That was a law that was enacted after the Great Depression that put some guardrails on investment banking, on speculative investments and stuff like that in Wall Street. So that, for example, you had to maintain some kind of actual economic asset separation between your investment banks that are doing like speculative transactions and your commercial banks that are holding people's savings accounts and stuff like that. And it was actually quite helpful in stabilizing things a bit. It meant that there was at least something that you could point to that would prevent these things spilling over quite to the same degree. And Clinton got rid of it. That was, I mean, the Democrats under Clinton, I mean, the Republicans joined in too, in deregulating that and getting rid of it. And then Obama, very early on, I mean, that was one of the things people were saying, you know, are you gonna bring back Glass-Steagall? It seems like maybe we need it. He's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Generally are, because when you print up money, rich people get access to that money first. They can borrow against either their home or what have you, and they can invest that money in the stock market, which is why the stock market has gone up so dramatically in the past 10 years. They borrowed money at a super low rate, put the money in the stock market, made themselves a bunch of money, and then if you have, you know, people that are poor or don't have anything, if they get their hands on money, the first thing they're doing is trying to pay bills, pay for their groceries, and where does that money go? It goes to the people that own the grocery stores. It goes to
Well, I feel like somebody might have written a book about this. And so, I mean, it sounds like what sort of serial killer Bob there is saying is that it's like there's this cycle, and you've got one group of people who start out with a whole bunch of money, and they pay it to workers who make commodities, and then they take the commodities off the workers who made them, and then they sell them, and they get more money. Whereas you have a whole other group of people who don't have money, so they go and make commodities for this other group, get a little bit of wage, and then they use that to buy some commodities, and then they're broke again. I mean, I'm just saying, it sounds kind of familiar to me.
people that own things. So this wealth transfer that we've seen in the past 10
Like, are these
years,
guys just, like, fucking reverse engineering communism here? I don't think they are, just to be clear. I really do not. But I find this interesting because, like, what do they do? They're gonna take this someplace fucked up. That is, like, their commitment to their audience. They're gonna do something bizarre and fucked up and completely unpredictable. But I find it interesting that they're acknowledging all of this all of a sudden.
It's all because of government policy.
And COVID too.
Pardon me?
The wealth transfer over COVID too.
Yeah, but COVID was the same thing. You know, it's like people got when the government just printed up money and they gave it to people that didn't have any kind of assets or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's worth noting that was extremely popular, actually. People, and I mean, it's part of what pissed people off when that stuff was all taken away, because it was this brief acknowledgement that the government could actually do things that were helpful, that the government could actually possibly make your economic situation better when there's a crisis, rather than just letting the market kill you. And then everyone is like, yeah, no, fuck you, we're going to pretend that the pandemic's over now, so you're not going to get any more money. The rich people that we loaned money to, though, we're going to forgive all those loans that were supposed to go to your paychecks, but actually just went to their pockets.
Where they spent that money, and where'd that money go? Again, it went to Jeff Bezos, because they were buying things on Amazon. So if you get free money from the government, and even if Jeff Bezos doesn't get it, the billionaires get it anyways.
Because we're in capitalism. They own everything.
They're the ones that own things, and you're going to buy the services and products that they're selling.
And not even just like people that own businesses. It was the billionaires, because your mom and pop shops were shut down, and you were only allowed to get stuff from Walmart or from Amazon.
Yeah.
A never-ending problem in politics is that it's just naturally not future-oriented. Because you're only going to be in office for so long, so it's not a delayed gratification type of industry at all. And I think that's going to upset a lot of young people, who maybe some of them are not even voters yet, and maybe some of them are just starting to vote, but they are just in the
or not voting because they're. I mean, the poll points out, like, they kind of hate the entire political class. Understandable.
Minority out of all the voters.
Understandably, because the entire political class hates them.
More towards the left, I think, because they're going to get very frustrated if we don't interact with them. So I think it's something that would be very important.
I think they might actually be more frustrating if you did interact with them. Maybe just avoid them.
for us, like as a community, as a society, would be to promote more future thinking. And I guess the most important person who has been doing this for the past years is Elon Musk. Who
Wait, what? Yeah, I mean, when you think about a guy who's really kind of planting trees in whose shade he will never, whose shade he will never enjoy. Yeah, I mean that's totally fucking Elon. The guy who has decided to create a chatbot to do nothing but fucking glaze him. The guy who bought an entire social media platform just so he could try to stop people taking the piss out of him. Yeah, I mean, that's a real long-term thinker right there. That guy's a fucking visionary.
Who thinks very far ahead, who thinks about us going to Mars in the very far future. I think that's a bit too far for politics. But generally just promoting more family values, and also for older people.
Promoting more family, but I mean, the point is they can't afford to have a fucking family. But I mean, yes, obviously what this means, what they're talking about when they say that is just being fucking anti-queer. But I mean, still,
or even just our generation, honestly, to think about the future generations, which are our children, and creating more of this community between younger generations and older generations again, because I think currently there's actually a big age war in politics.
There are attempts to make one happen, but when you actually look at political opinions, the generational shift is not as much as you would think. Like, between Gen X and millennials and, like, Gen Z, whatever, I mean, they actually agree on way more than they disagree on, because we're all fucked.
Well, yeah, I see in the United States, when we point out that boomers, 75% own homes, and many of those people own multiple homes.
Yeah, many is doing a lot of work here.
They get angry. Not all boomers, but we'll get a lot of responses being like, don't blame us, I worked for it and I deserve it. I've heard from tons of boomers and they say, hey, I worked for my security, I deserve it. And it's just like, yes.
Well, why should anyone have to work for, like, basic fucking economic security, though? Why shouldn't that just be a thing? Why shouldn't that be just a thing you have?
But in order to pay for it, like, you paid someone else. And Gen Z is now working to pay you, and Gen Z's never going to see that money.
And those boomers that have multiple homes, they locked in.
Wait, Gen Z is never going to see that money? I mean, he was just saying a minute ago that nobody's going to touch Social Security. In that case, which is not true. I mean, they've been trying to touch Social Security in all sorts of ways since the fucking 80s. So it's definitely not true. But if nobody's going to touch Social Security, then yes, they're going to be seeing that money. I mean, unless you're just saying that by then we've already had the revolution, or we've gone extinct because of the climate change you guys deny.
An interest rate of 2-3%, and now if you want to go buy a home, it's going to be 6-7%. And that's a huge amount of money over the course of a 30-year loan. So, like,
or the 50-year ones the motherfuckers are now trying to promote, which is, I mean, that'll be wonderful.
That people, the boomers are like, oh, don't be mad at me, blah, 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 blah. I mean, look, you're going to have people saying, this is not fair. This is not fair that I can't afford a home, that I can't get that interest rate that you got.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have absolutely nothing to offer those people, though, because your entire politics is all about making sure that things stay that way.
Got this
and
super
get worse
deal because the government was doing everything they can to keep interest rates down and keep them low because they were pumping up the stock market. And again, you can't stress this enough. They did it for 10 years. You had super low interest rates. And then COVID came, and because of the inflation with COVID, they had to jack up the interest rates. And young people are totally screwed because of this.
And boomers need to relax on...
I mean, the thing is, people were already fucked before COVID. COVID really did put a fine point on it. Who the fuck is this guy? Like, I mean, is he, like, from a live-action musical production of King of the Hill? But... people were fucked before that already. That's why we've been having, like, these escalating working class uprisings and shit. And mass mobilizations about all sorts of things. over the past decade. People were already fucked.
Their nihilism. Like, they need to start caring. We need to start caring because we have under 30% of under 30-year-olds. 8% of people are leaning Republican. They're not into the Republican Party. They don't care about it.
I mean, well, yeah, why would they? I mean, it sucks.
So the old folks, boomers who have the money, you guys need to start thinking about, you're going to die. What are you going to do with your money? You're going to die. So you need to start caring about what the young kids and give them opportunities and just show them that you care. That we might get more folks who are going to come to.
I'm not sure exactly how you do
And
that.
like, wait a second. So the idea is, if right-wingers do the exact opposite of what right-wingers exist to do, then you might actually... That's how they think they might be able to attract people to being right-wing. Like...
What is it that boomers...
I mean, I agree that the reason people don't actually like reactionaries is because of who reactionaries are and what they stand for, and the fact that both of those things suck.
They're supposed to do to indicate care. And first of all, what are they supposed to do to indicate that they care? Second of all, right, like
the exact opposite of what they normally do would be a start, but they're not going to do it.
What is it that they could materially do to help young people?
Well, they're definitely not going to fucking do that. Like, materially doing things to help poor people, that's, like, who are you talking about? They're not going to do that.
You know, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I mean, and the idea, I mean, we have to just note, I cannot emphasize enough that they're saying, you know, the way we could possibly win people back over to the people who proudly do not give a shit about working class people, to win them over to a politics of not giving a shit about the working class is by giving a shit about the working class and being basically the opposite of what we are. And it's like, well, I mean, there's an insight in there, like, accidentally, but I don't think it's gonna work that way.
If they've got a mortgage at a low rate and they're trying to rent it out, but young people don't have the money to rent it out.
Well, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe people shouldn't actually have more housing than they're actually going to use. Maybe that should be a thing. Maybe we should just say that as long as there are people without housing, you only get to have the ones you actually use. I mean, even if you were to just say you get to have one place in a holiday place, you could still fucking end homelessness pretty quickly. And take the rent way down.
They still have a mortgage that they have to cover. They can't go ahead and be like, well, I'll lose money on my, or at least they're not going to say, I'll lose money on my rental property.
Yeah, well, maybe just fucking sell the thing then.
That way you have a place to live.
Even the system that they were born into doesn't really exist anymore because they went to college for much cheaper, but that's not their fault that they went to college for much cheaper. And now, because the government got involved in student loans...
Well, I mean, the government got involved in funding higher education before that. It was actually the government getting uninvolved that changed that. The government decided to step back and say, instead of, like, actually funding higher education, we're going to make people go into debt to do it.
Price of going to college has been jacked up exponentially, and there's no way for the newer generations to actually feasibly have a good life, because if there are a lot of these companies now, they've been sold off to major corporations which put ridiculous rules in place for how people are hired, and people just get they get basically removed from the job market entirely, whether it's through H-1B visas or the fact that you
okay, I have to point out once again, I pointed this out a couple of weeks ago, but this is bullshit. Because the thing about H-1B visas, the thing about all work visas in the U.S., is that an employer who wants to hire somebody on one of these visas, other than a green card, which is a separate thing entirely, and most non-citizens will never have access to them. They are just completely cut out of that. Yeah, I mean, unless something fundamentally changes about the way U.S. immigration law works, that's not a thing. But for all of these employment-related visas, employers first have to document that they attempted to hire people who are U.S. citizens for the position and were unable to do so. I mean, they're suddenly acknowledging all sorts of shit. I find it fascinating. I find this really fascinating. And I just wonder where this is going, because, I mean, I've watched them so many times pretending that actually everybody just loves Trump, that that's just what normal people like, that everybody just loves right-wing bullshit. And now and that especially the younger generation. I mean, I remember we watched it on stream. It might have been last year, where Tim had this whole thing about how younger women are going to have to become more conservative so that they can fuck guys, because like younger guys, 1/5 of them are kind of conservative.
Need to have 5 years experience for an entry-level job and stuff like that. It's literally designed to fail, but that isn't necessarily the fault of the generation that came before them, other than...
I mean, it's not necessarily the generation that came before them. Well, yeah, it's not the fault of the generation. It is the fault of the fucking system, and every single thing that they're pointing out is, like, literally just how the system works. But they can't acknowledge that.
Who sold their companies to larger companies, which then put these rules into place. You don't see a lot of things in the way of, paid, like internships or mentoring programs in the same way that they used to. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Well, yeah, because it's not profitable. I mean, unpaid internships, yes. I mean, if you want to work for a company and not get paid, they're actually kind of happy to let you.
And then millennials or Gen Z get angry when a boomer says to you, you know what, go up to him and shake his hand and look him in the eye and hand him your resume and make sure it's printed out on good card stock and stuff like that. It's not really their fault that advice doesn't work anymore.
I mean, true, because again, the special period is over. I mean, if we were serious about like U.S. economic history, we're serious about talking about what is actually normal in the U.S. economy and what isn't, we would call the period from about 1945 to 1973 the special period, because there's never been anything like it in U.S. history before that or since. And the entire material basis for it just fucking went away.
But it just further kind of reinforces the divide between all the generations.
And it's a double-edged sword.
Like, they're literally... I mean, what I find fascinating is that they are literally making the case for why somebody would oppose capitalism and be looking at socialism or communism or something like that. They're literally making the case for why that is in fact the right direction to be looking, but they will never acknowledge it. I mean, if they acknowledge it, I will eat my kefir or something, because that will just be fucking wild, and I will be in an alternative reality or something.
Sort of nowadays for young people, because young people are doing more staying at home. They don't interact with people. They don't have social skills the way that that people did generally 20, 30, 40 years ago. And one of the most effective ways to find a job is knowing people, networking with people. Yeah. So if you're...
well, yeah, but there still need to be the fucking jobs. And the thing is, the issue isn't just finding the job. It's that you get the job and it doesn't pay you anywhere near enough to actually live on it.
You're not very charismatic. You can't hold a conversation with someone. You don't know where to go to meet people. You don't have particularly good interpersonal skills, and you have to have your mom come with you to your interview.
Like, what?
Right?
Where? Okay, where? What?
And you're not going to get the job. You're just not. And if you don't know a lot of people, opportunities are going to slip by. And so one of the best advice you can give to young people is
is that we need communism.
Break out of that kind of the cycle of staying home, not going out, not meeting
going out where? How are you going to afford to go out? That costs money.
People, and as distasteful as it might seem, go to job fairs. And
wait. Okay, this is fucking wild. I told you there was gonna be some fucked up bullshit. So, like, just a minute ago, they were talking about how you can't really blame the boomers for giving this, like, completely useless advice about you just need to print your resume out on a nice cardstock and give a nice hearty handshake and look them in the eye and pound the pavement and all the fucking cliches. And now he's doing now he's giving that fucking advice. What they really need to do is they need to fucking pound the pavement. Like, you just got done explaining yourself that doesn't work.
Even if they're not jobs that you're particularly interested in, the more you're out among people and talk to people, the better your chances of finding some kind of job. And people are going to go ahead and poo-poo that idea. But I tell you what, it's a way...
Well, like a minute ago, you yourself were poo-pooing that idea.
A better idea than sitting at home on social media and scrolling through TikTok because you're not going to find any work on your couch.
Well, I mean, like, that is just amazing. It's like somebody flipped a fucking switch.
It's an even better idea than going to college. And I mean that genuinely. I do not encourage anyone in there, like, who just graduated from high school to go to college now. And I say that as someone, I graduated with the highest degree the highest grade that you can get in high school in Germany. And in Germany, it's even more standardized. You kind of have to go to university, otherwise you're kind of a failed person and you don't make it at all in Germany.
Well, I mean, so what she's saying is she likes to give advice that she herself would not have followed, and that in fact actually would not be very good advice. The advice she's giving would not be very good advice because all sorts of fucking entry-level minimum wage jobs want a bachelor's. I mean, you can, like, fucking Home Depot has occasionally had, like, clerking jobs, and they want a bachelor's for that shit.
And everybody told me you have to go to university because otherwise you're wasting your great grades. And I hated it. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to go to university. This was my dream in middle school. And then after high school, I realized this is just the same, honestly, horrible system. It's just it failed so many young people. And now people are getting out of college who just...
I mean, yes, capitalism is a horrible system.
Went in the past years, and now they're realizing, oh, AI is taking over, so my degree is useless now. So what am I going to do now? So you need to be in tune with what's currently happening in the entire job world. And
yeah, well, you just got done explaining that what's happening is that everybody's fucked.
You cannot live in the real world while you're going to college or university, and it's a big problem. I think you need to be updated in everything that's going on social media, in the media, and understand what actually matters to the world. Because the whole idea of becoming an entrepreneur is you need to understand what.
The whole idea is you need to start out with fucking capital. That's how that works. I mean, if you want to entreprendre a thing, you actually do have to have some fucking capital. Which, I mean, we just got done talking about how nobody has any.
The real problems of people, so you can solve them. You need to make yourself useful. By going to college, you're just seeking good grades in something.
I wonder if maybe there are things that you can learn while you're getting the good grades. Like, maybe you learn about stuff at university. I mean, she went. You would think she would know this.
Nobody cares about your grades. You have to be useful to society.
Yep.
I wonder if there's something in when you go to university that will help you become useful to society.
Yeah, that's a great point. The idea that you're owed a job, or that just because of your existing, in the United States, you should be able to find a job. You need to be useful. That's a great point.
Jeff Bezos isn't useful. Tim Pool isn't useful. None of these motherfuckers are useful. Like, I mean, it's like somebody flipped a fucking switch, because just a minute ago they were talking about how absolutely pointless all of this sort of advice is in a job market where there just isn't any fucking reasonably well-paying work for most people. And now they've just sort of switched around and they're giving the boomer advice that they were specifically saying that you couldn't blame them for giving it, even though it was obviously bad advice. Like they've come full circle in less than 5 minutes.
This is a challenge for Gen Z, and in every generation, except for I think Gen X, had some great challenge. Although to be
Gen X had let's remember the last time that non-managerial real wages weren't stagnating or declining was 1973. So that's most of Gen X, actually, too.
fair, I think Gen X had with the financial crisis hitting them right at like the peaks of their careers.
Well, and like fucking neoliberalism demolishing the entire basis on which Gen X's parents managed to get any kind of a foothold and any kind of security. Like, Reagan they got rid of the whole defined benefit pension system, and Reagan did that wonderful thing where he said that, he just sort of announced by like a stroke of the pen practically that the pension funds that were supposed to be the property of workers, legally they were supposed to be the property of workers, that he said, oh no, actually now employers can just use that money as their own fucking cash. And so they used up everybody's fucking pensions. So yeah, everybody's been fucked for a while. It's just been getting worse.
Losing a lot of what they worked for. You can see the charts on corporate equities and home ownership when the 2008 crash happened. Gen X got eviscerated. And but that being said, I was talking about this earlier with this great clip from Fight Club where Brad Pitt's character said,
"Oh, okay. Now we're going to today in." Characters that if you idolize them, it means you didn't understand the fucking movie.
Is that there's Tyler Durden. We have no great war. We have no great struggle or whatever. Every generation has some kind of struggle, and Gen Z has this one right now. The question is, are they going to rise to the challenge and
build communism? And
how will they do it? Are they going to go leftist and say just tax everybody and burn it down? I'll extract what I can from these people. Or are they going to be I'm going to go out and find my own way within the system?
Well, you just got done. They just spent 15 minutes talking about how the reason that like people in Gen Z are feeling this way is that there's just literally the system has thrown them overboard before they even fucking bought a ticket.
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that the educational system that they've been raised on teaches people to actually create jobs for themselves.
To create jobs for themselves. So, like, that's when you do an apprenticeship as a glazier, and you break you go around the street, you go around the high street at night, and you break windows, and then you just sort of drop your card in with the shards to say, hey, I see you got a broken window here, I could fix it for you. That's how you create jobs for yourself.
Mostly teaches you to be a worker for somebody else. Not everybody has the desire to be an entrepreneur, to go out and create the economy for themselves.
Well, yeah, because that's all it takes. That's what it takes. It's the desire. You just need you need to want it, and all of a sudden you got all the capital you need.
Now that's possible that eventually, if it comes to that, and there's no other options.
Like literally, no, it is not possible, because the entire system depends on having people who are going to be doing shitty jobs for a shitty wage. You can't have a system where everybody is a capitalist, because then nobody does any of the fucking work.
Kind of feet held to the fire, maybe that ends up being what happens to you, but most people aren't entrepreneurs. They're people that work best going into a job, and most people seek out the security of having a job rather than creating money for themselves.
It reminds me of something that
they're creating money for themselves.
A lot, there are some people that are born to take big rocks and make them into smaller rocks. That's about all they can do.
Oh wow, that's lovely.
I was at this local politician party a long time ago, and there was some wealthy dude there who said,
at a politician's party,
some people, someone has to work at McDonald's, and that's
like literally, if they didn't, then capitalists would not have any money. That's precisely why they stopped even pretending to take COVID seriously after a few months. You remember that? Where, there were all these op-eds all of a sudden where it was saying, like, workers should be willing to die for the economy, because everybody was seeing like rich people's money was just absolutely in free fall because workers weren't doing the work, and so therefore rich people didn't have anything to siphon off of.
How a lot of these people view the world. The issue is, right now, McDonald's doesn't pay enough so that you can live a life. And it used to be that working at McDonald's was something a 16-year-old did, and then it was a summer job where you got paid a little bit, saved up money, but lived with your parents, and then when you got older and got out of high school, you got a trade or a better job. But I think this system that we've built over the last 100 years is a lie. It used to be that you learned from your parents.
It's a lie that you've been selling, though.
Then we industrialized this system, and then we tried to institutionalize this system with college. But some
Wait, what?
people are just meant to turn big rocks into small rocks. They're never going to learn how to run computer systems or run business.
See, this is why people like this are saying, you know, kids today should not go to university. Because the thing is, what we have actually is a generation, like including Gen Z, actually a couple of generations, of actually pretty well-educated people who are doing shitty menial work because it's all they can get. So they know they can do something better, they know they are capable of it, but nobody will pay them for it. So they would really like to have a much less educated population so they can sell the lie that they couldn't do anything else.
And how do you then navigate this system? I honestly don't know.
Well, it's like when you hear entrepreneurs talk about the business, they talk about it's an obsession of theirs, right? They think about it every minute of every day. It's the most important thing in the world to them. And it oftentimes will end up being to the detriment of other avenues of their life.
And to the detriment of the lives of everyone around them.
Most people just don't have that in them to live that way. I know that's not the way that I see the world, right? Like, it would be very hard for me to live that way. So I can't condemn people because they're not built in a way that's designed.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something other than being built in a particular way that comes into this. Like actually just having enough money to throw it at an idea and know that even if it fails, you've actually got something stored away.
To run, to live your life like that when most people aren't. But we are slowly moving towards a world where that's what's going to happen. Now,
what's going to happen? What does he think that everybody is going to suddenly become capitalists? Like everybody's going to suddenly be entrepreneurializing? How's that supposed to work? Like, you need to have capital in order to actually do that.
Could say that the creator economy on social media has actually created mini entrepreneurs out of people in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the ones who go out and they work for themselves by making social media content.
Yeah, except no, not really, because most of those people aren't getting shit. Like, the ad revenue is nothing, and I mean, I don't know if you've been hearing about this. I know a bunch of creators have been talking about it, but they pushed some kind of update to the algorithm, and the result of it is that everybody's numbers have just gone way down, and it has coincided with the platform being overrun with AI slop, including long-form AI slop. So, like, even before that, it was a handful of people who were actually making any kind of money doing that. Whether from like Patreons or whether it's from ad revenue. I mean, even smaller number on ad revenue, because it's just a tiny amount. Unless you've got millions of people tuning in regularly, it's nothing. But yeah, so no, I mean, yeah, a whole lot of people are trying to do it, because that's where we are. That's the stage of capitalism we're in, where we're expected to just monetize literally every single aspect of our lives.
Content, that is a form of industriousness that's probably more natural to them than it is to prior generations.
I wonder if it's not so much what's natural to them might actually be that they need to be able to afford to eat. And so they've heard this is a way they can make some money.
Yeah, I mean, but not everybody can make content that's, I mean...
That's my point.
Yeah, I know. Look at Tim Pool. I mean, his content is dog shit.
Yeah, this is the it goes for every job, right? Not everyone can do every job out there. It's like, it goes back to the thing we talk about where people are not just cogs that you can replace one person and have them do the same exact job as someone else.
Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. And look at some liberal slop. Pete Hegseth in hot water for potential war crimes.
Hey guys, it's Tommy Vitor.
Oh, this is members only. Okay, so fuck that. Okay, that simplifies my decision a little bit. Because I'm certainly not signing up and paying for Pod Save America. Destiny's court transcripts released. Not okay, and then there's this channel that let me see here. Well, what else do we have? Aaron Molin. Okay, we got PragerU. We haven't looked at those particular assholes in a while. Aaron Molin, who I've never heard of, says mass immigration and media lies are erasing the West.
We're seeing public broadcasters reporting as fact a statement from a terrorist organization. It's criminal.
Aaron Mullen, what are you seeing in Australia right now? Were you part of Sky News? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it is criminal. They should not be reporting U.S. and Israeli government statements as fact. Yeah, I think we've squeezed as much content out of that as possible.
As to be a woman who is conservative, in that space, they don't want you to have an opinion. They don't want you to do anything that
Well,
could
maybe it's because your opinion sucks shit.
alienate any part of your audience.
Do you think that China is pushing this woke narrative?
Xi Jinping is sitting there going, this is amazing. They would never, ever tolerate it on their own soil.
We have a serious issue with immigration.
We're bringing in people who don't share our values.
Well, yeah, but your values suck, so that's actually good. I hope most people don't share your values, actually.
We, in the West, welcoming in people who come from countries where you sit in a classroom and you are told it is okay to kill someone because of what God they believe in.
You mean, oh, so you're talking about fundamentalist Christians?
Aaron Mullen, welcome to America.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so...
Do they have a bowl full of coffee beans in front of them? Like it's cereal? That is
lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you here. Last time I went on your show, and the clip that went viral was actually about how much we hate weak men. So we could talk about that too, maybe.
Doesn't that say so much about society? Like,
No, it really doesn't. It just says something about you.
Like we were talking about existential threats.
No.
Terrorism and the rising threat of the Chinese Communist Party.
The rising threat of the Chinese... Like, she's Australia. What you have to know when they're talking... When you hear, like, Australian reactionaries in particular talking this shit, China is Australia's bar none leading trading partner. If Australia ever like tried to start some shit with China, they would be killing their own economy. They depend on trade with China.
No, we're talking about weak men. But to be honest, in some ways they are the greatest threat that we face.
I completely
As
agree.
women.
I mean, we see here in the United States, one of the conversations we're having right now is young men feeling really disaffected and therefore reaching dark areas of the internet where
they find PragerU.
Getting role models that are just completely horrific, and it's tragic.
Hey, don't say... Dennis Prager watches this.
And so I do think that ultimately it does come down to the basic things.
Yeah.
The male role in society, the female's role in society.
We've
Wow, we're just talking like Ferengi now.
demonized them, haven't we? To the extent where, I mean, they don't see any way out. They're not allowed to be masculine because that's toxic.
No, nobody says that. Unless you're, I mean, except for the toxic shit, that stuff is toxic, and it's good that they're not doing that.
They're not allowed to be this, or they're not allowed to have manly roles because that's
Like what?
anti-feminist. Like, what do you expect
Yeah.
from them? They're going to search for what they biologically need in dark places rather than...
Okay, that's given me a mental image I will be merciful and not share with you. I don't need to think about guys seeking out their biological needs in dark places.
and being able to get it in a society that accepts them for who they are, and it motivates and inspires them to be better and to be good. At the moment, we're not giving them any space to do that, and we've turned them against everything that matters.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that we've lost a generation of strong men because we've made it impossible for men to be.
I've been were you part of Sky News? Is that right?
I was Sky News Australia. Yeah, I was there for 3 years, and prior to that, I was a sports car. I just don't really want a bloke in my daughter's bathroom. That would be who you are. And who would maybe say, hey, like, I'm so happy for you to be who you are. I just don't really want a bloke in my daughter's bathroom.
So that sounds like you're not actually very happy for trans people to be who they are then, if you're trying to kick them out of public spaces and institute forced genital inspections. We have to, I mean, I think people, when they like call professional anti-trans bigots biological essentialists, they're kind of missing a trick. Because first of all, they're not biological essentialists. They don't give a shit about biology. They don't know anything about biology. When they talk about biology, it is like, it's stuff that would have failed a fucking 8th grade paper. What they are, on the other hand, is obsessed with getting access to other people's genitals by force. Every time that you listen to them like propose something, all of their policy proposals, if you ask how would this be implemented, how would this be enforced, the only way you could possibly enforce it is forcible genital inspections. That is what they want, by definition, because if they're serious about the things they say that they would like to impose on society, then they're serious about actually enforcing them. So, I mean, they're fucking nonsense.
That would be my God, no. Oh, you're too controversial. Too controversial. So in that space, they don't want you to have an opinion. They don't want...
Well, maybe it's because they just don't want you to be a bigoted piece of shit.
You to do anything that could alienate any part of your audience. So whilst I occupied those roles, and also I was in news at the time as well, so I was on the sports desk as part of your 6 p.m. news. And back in those days, 5 years ago...
I mean, for people who aren't familiar, Sky is Rupert Murdoch. That is Fox.
News was there to give you information and not for a reporter or a host to give you their opinion. That's changed significantly now. I then became a commentator and opinion host at Sky News, but prior to that, when you're in a role that you're meant to just give people the facts so they can then make up their mind, whether that be in sport, which is, you know, neither here nor there, it doesn't, there's not life or death. But in news in particular, we're now seeing anchors who purport to be straight deliverers of news lace it with their own perspective.
Like what? Oh, here we go. I'm skipping ahead because this is boring me.
On the globe becomes this mass issue, this divisive issue, even in Australia.
Absolutely. And it did. And I think, you know, initially, after October 7, people felt understandable horror. It took about 36 hours for Australians to go in front of the Sydney Opera House and cheer and celebrate what was a heinous attack. And as you know,
it's so great when these people try to do moral outrage. I mean, there's been just the most depraved shit ever. Just the, you know, live stream genocide for over 2 years now. It has not stopped. Anyone who tells you that there's a ceasefire is either buying it or they're selling it, but there isn't one in any real sense of the word. Israel and the U.S. have not ceased firing. They're good. She's gonna do some fucking moral outrage. Yeah, opinion host for Sky News, like Piers Morgan was for a while, if I remember correctly.
Largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust.
That it isn't actually true. the largest massacre of Jews since the Nazi Holocaust was, in fact, the dictatorship in Argentina, which was supported by Israel and the U.S.
And for me, that was the first moment I'd ever felt shame surrounding my country. And you're right.
Really? I mean, I think you'll find normal people who, have felt shame around it more than that.
Very far away. And this is the issue that we have. So there are extremists, absolutely. There are people who believe in this ideology that results in the death of innocent people. There are people who subscribe to it. There are people
yeah, I mean, you're one.
Country who not only share those beliefs, but feel the need to essentially recruit others to that same way of thinking. Vast majority of people, though, feel like it is far away, don't feel like it impacts them directly, care deeply about humanity, but cost of living crisis, single mums for that you or I would be, and not because they're not clever or because they're not engaged, but just because they don't have capacity. So the issue you have, though, is when you get the extremists who then occupy the quiet space with their loudness.
Skipping ahead, occupy the quiet space with their loudness.
But when you are not giving people that information, that subtly shapes a narrative of someone who's not going to then go and Google. Someone getting out of the car with their shopping, here's the opening line of the ABC, which says, day 720 of Israel's illegal invasion of Gaza.
Those are just facts. Those are literal. That's just literally true.
There is nothing further from the truth. But that's...
What do you mean? Like, is it not day 723? Are they not in Gaza? Is Israel not involved? Like, it seems...
starts to shape a mentality. And when you teach kids...
That's so fucking terrible. That's so fucking terrible when the news tell people what happened.
In your own country that we are colonizers, that we are racist.
You are colonizers. Like, how do you think white people got to Australia? I don't think you were originally there.
We should have no national pride. We don't play our national anthem anymore because that's offensive. The Australian flag is...
Yeah, I mean, it is offensive because it claims that Australia is a young country when there have been civilizations living there for literally 50,000 years, at least. That's the oldest human remains are like 50,000 years old. There are artificial structures that still work in Australia that are 1,000 years old. So yeah, it is actually kind of offensive to pretend that nothing was going on before fucking Captain Cook showed up.
Racist. How can we be surprised when all of a sudden they jump onto this cause that they think makes them better people, or they look like they're empathetic because suddenly they're caring about kids in Gaza? Well, join the bloody club.
You don't seem to be a member of that particular club.
Care about kids in Gaza as much, if not more, than anyone else in Australia.
Yeah, you can tell. That's why she's pissed off that the Australian state television apparently at one point said something factual about them.
What I try and do is show you who's responsible for their suffering, because what you're doing doesn't help them. Marching for Hamas does not help them.
Why do you think the legacy media in Australia is so extreme and so wrong?
This is so wild because the thing is, Australian dominant media has been very pro-Israel. They have actually, contrary to what she is letting people believe, it's really a pity Jijiri isn't here. She is a regular, an occasional visitor to the stream who's based in Australia. And she would probably love this and probably be very familiar with this Erica Molin garbage monster. But, Australian media have actually, for the most part, absolutely tried to exonerate Israel. So, what the fuck is she talking about?
About so many things, not just the issue of Israel, but the defense of the West in general, the defense of Australian people in general.
Like, which Australian people, though?
It's a great question, and I wish I had a really solid answer that I wholeheartedly believed in, and I don't, because I think there are so many different elements to it, so many different elements. I look at the people running these networks, and a lot of them are themselves left-leaning.
No, they're not. I mean, they're left of her, but she's practically the KKK.
At the audiences that they are trying to appeal to, and you look at, so from a very basic perspective, ratings are key, right, to everything and anything when it comes to commercial television. They're not motivated by the kind of things that you are here. You know, you're motivated.
Yeah, I mean, they're not motivated by the sort of things that august institutions like PragerU are.
Motivated by making the world a better place and ensuring a future for our kids believe in a certain thing, then why would you... And if no one's going to hold you to account and you believe goes to where initially, there's just no responsibility. There doesn't seem to be any care about the damage that they're doing, and no one is holding them to account. And if no one's going to hold you to account and you believe in a certain thing, then why would you stop?
You mentioned consequence, which is really the key for holding these legacy media companies accountable. We've seen here in the United States, thanks to really President Trump, he broke legacy media.
Well, what? Did he?
Trust legacy media anymore. It's mostly the geezers, as we call them here, that even watch legacy media. And
I mean,
really,
that was already happening.
Independent media providers like you,
right?
Like Daily Wire here in the United.
How independent of what? Like, I love how the term, you could just use the word independent no matter who's bankrolling you. Even when it's like a dark money group and nobody even knows who's bankrolling you because they're not required to disclose where the money's from. Everybody's fucking independent. You're independent. I'm independent. Fucking, why isn't CBS News independent then? Like, I mean, yeah, the term clearly just means fucking nothing.
United States and many others have really become more influential, especially of young people. Are you seeing that in Australia as well? Are people understanding that they can't trust legacy media? Are younger people realizing that possibly the internet and podcasts is the space where they can hear alternative perspectives, where they're not at the mercy
I think they may have actually become aware that there is an internet
of the legacy institutions?
Look, I think it's a great question, and I haven't actually really thought about it as a comparison to what's happening here in America. I think you are yards ahead in America of where we are in Australia, and I think you're right.
That sounds like faint praise.
President Trump deserves a lot of credit for that. I feel like in Australia, we've still got a leader who, I mean, he would probably argue that this is not the case because, you know...
Because there are facts, and it's like literally just not true.
Media are often critical of leaders, but for the vast majority of time, the legacy media is on his side, so there's no reason for someone in a position of power to destroy them, right?
Yeah, I mean, she got done talking about how left-leaning the legacy media in Australia are, and now she's admitting that actually they side with fucking Albanese. Not Francesca, the other Albanese, the shitty one, who's the Prime Minister of Australia and is actually right-wing.
But if it benefits them, why would
He's in the Labour Party, but the Labour Party is quite right-wing.
So
not right-wing enough for her, admittedly.
I think what we would need to occur is for someone to come in who has been on the other side of it, who has been essentially, like President Trump was, destroyed by these... I'm not allowed to swear, am I? These... That then would open the eyes of the public, I think, in a much bigger way. So we're not there yet. I think you need to kind of really hit some kind of rock bottom.
Like, does she actually think that the distrust... Is she trying to say that the distrust in, like, dominant media is to the benefit of Trump? Because it's not. If anything, Trump's less popular than the media.
To then have this moment where you go, oh, wow. Now, I've had that moment. I've had this moment absolutely post-October 7, a little bit post-COVID. But
post-COVID hasn't happened yet, though.
Post-October 7, absolutely. I wouldn't say I blindly trusted, but because I was part of this machine, and I worked with people that I respected, and I watched due diligence, and I watched, news anchors who were so good at their craft and would not accept or condone anything other than the straight telling of factual news.
Which she was just criticizing them for a minute ago.
Suddenly completely ceased to exist as I knew it. And that opened my eyes. And I feel actually, I look back now and I go, what have I just blindly believed for 20 years of my life?
I mean, what I love is she's not really given any examples of anything. It is just so pro forma. It's like, okay, I found that I did not believe anything that they were saying about a thing, but we're not going to actually say what it was, because that would, apparently she's not getting paid enough to have an actual example.
Your eyes.
Great question. So all of those things, absolutely, but I wasn't in...
PragerU has helpfully named this section October 7th as a test of good and evil.
...a space to talk publicly about them. So I didn't realize the kind of backlash that you would experience, or people's inability to... I mean, I've always just told the truth, but I've told it in a...
Yeah, I can tell.
...space where it doesn't really rile people, as in a sporting arena. October 7 was the first, and I say incident, to occur that was controversial, which I think, again, is absolute insanity.
Yeah, I mean, that is wild, because, I mean, before that, nothing was ever controversial.
Should be controversial, how to cover it, where...
Well, I mean, except that it is controversial because, like, covering it factually is frowned upon.
I went on air after it occurred, and I condemned absolutely the attack and the terrorists. It was horrific. It was unfathomable. And I stood staunchly alongside the people.
Wait, I mean, she was just talking about how she doesn't want people, like, throwing their opinions at you on the news, and she's talking now, she's like, well, yeah, so I was on the news then, and I decided to throw my opinion at people.
Who were the victims of that attack. And again, I reiterate, I hosted, my show was called Erin. It was an opinion show with very clearly marked opinion. So it was my job to give my take on it. Whereas during COVID and gender affirming care and all the other things.
During gender affirming care?
I would look at it and talk to my mum and dad and say, this is appalling. Or, I mean, COVID, complete, honest, I'm a loner by nature, and not having to go out socially was actually the greatest. So there wasn't really, I know people suffered immensely and there was a huge downside, but I guess for me, I kind of felt very comfortable.
I mean, I think she should continue social distancing. I mean, like, I would recommend it just in general because the pandemic isn't over, and it's the only way we're going to beat it. If we, masking, social distancing, like getting Novavax, but... Her, I would say, just in general, on general principle, she should socially distance.
In that space. So this was the first time that I was in a position where I was publicly giving my take on something that was divisive. So then to see the reaction to that firsthand, rather than just be talking about it at home or amongst friends or colleagues or family, opened my eyes. And when I started to, I guess, started to look into it and see what I was seeing and compare that to what was being broadcast as fact.
Like what, for example? Are you going to give examples? Like, I mean, just something concrete.
Terrified me in so many ways.
For example, like what?
Maybe that's on me that I wasn't as highly engaged. I wasn't absorbing as much media prior. I was, working incredibly hard in one field and space, and still loved as a passion.
Is anyone going to have some of those raw coffee beans there?
Other side, but not to the extent that I was doing it when it became a professional pursuit. And so to see firsthand what was occurring versus...
Wait, she was also just saying she had a job as doing an opinion show. First of all, she's going to talk about how leftist the media are in Australia, and she got a job as a right-winger with her own fucking opinion show. And second of all, she said she had not been exposed to many controversial things. It's like, then what the fuck are you even having opinions about? Like, that's kind of... I thought the point of an opinion show is that somebody expose themselves to controversial things so that they could then have opinions on them.
Was what was being sold to a large mainstream audience.
You mean like the beheaded babies that weren't?
That to me was my moment of wow. So it's a great point. Whether or not there was a shift in media or did that exist prior, and I just wasn't in a position where it was my job to be following it as closely or to be broadcasting it, I don't know. Probably a combination of the two.
You know, I think that in the United States, at least, the issue of COVID and gender affirming care and the LGBTQ+++ sorted people between left and right. People kind of figured out which...
What's interesting is how many right-wingers actually... I mean, they've done polling on this, and there is polling that actually shows even right-wingers, people who vote Republican, find it low-key scary how obsessed their politicians are with hurting trans people.
Where do they stand? The issue of October 7th is sorting people between right and wrong.
I mean, I would tend to agree. And you lot are on the wrong side. You're on the side of wrong.
And that is a key point.
You're wrong people.
Look at so many different people in my life, and I think we can feel differently about this, and this, and I embrace that, and I will debate you on it.
But if you don't support genocide, then I want nothing to do with you.
We'll have a drink, we'll have a laugh, and then we'll move on and be best friends for life. Amazing.
I mean, I'm not doing her accent justice. I'm doing like a fucking Queensland accent, and she has a very upper class Sydney accent. But
good versus evil is a space where I am
very evil
inclined to say, we have a different perspective. No, it's about who you are at the core. It's about who you are as a person.
Yeah,
what do we value? And someone who would march alongside the poster of the supreme Iranian leader or would march alongside an ISIS flag.
You mean like Israel, because Israel actually was backing ISIS in Gaza and Syria as well. Hello. Like, do these, this is somebody who gets paid to have opinions about stuff, and she does not know that Hamas and ISIS don't actually get on and have fought wars
at a rally and not have an issue with that. That's not a difference in political opinion that I embrace and I seek out and I love to engage with. That's supporting evil. It is good versus evil in the most basic way. There is nothing complex in this that I can see.
So obviously the fact that Israel was supporting ISIS and using ISIS to loot aid and just murder people in Gaza. I mean, obviously they're well out of order, right?
Dealing with here in the United States, we just had an election, devastating results in New York with Mamdani really having I think some people are accusing him of being an Islamist. I actually think it's not just that he's an Islamist. I think
because he literally isn't one.
That he's a socialist.
I mean, he really isn't that either, but okay.
Which is a real problem. And so, but I think a big part of it is, why is this happening? And one of the things that we have to recognize is that if we allow people from all over the world to move to the United States of America and start, having children here and electing, we are going to start seeing an America that we don't recognize.
Like, I mean, I think probably you already don't recognize it because you live in a fucking bubble.
We have a serious issue with immigration, specifically mass immigration of people,
which is bullshit. No, there isn't one.
Who haven't been inculcated and taught what the American dream is about and what American...
Inculcated by whom? Because, like, look at the polls. Nobody actually believes that shit anymore, and it's been a long time since anyone did.
Stand for. And as I look at other Western countries, whether it's the UK or Australia, I actually think that you all are ahead of that problem.
Yeah.
I mean, what has happened in Australia when it comes to immigration? And I mean, maybe you can give us a warning of what that looks like if those who see evil don't do anything about it. And I do...
Yeah, the evil she's talking about, for anyone who's not clear on it, is brown people existing. That's the evil she's talking about
I
here.
think it's truly evil to drain a country of its own identity and its own values.
What do you? I mean, it's funny that you should say that, because I think that a lot of Aboriginal people in Australia would agree with you.
Because it's disappearing you. It's disappearing Australia.
No, it's not disappearing her. She's disappearing them. She was just talking about how it sucks that you can't sing the national anthem anymore because people have this thing where they don't like having their identity drained away. You know, the fucking 50,000-year-old cultures that they have that have been erased by the invaders. And, like, they're seriously it is just fascinating. It is fascinating how little self-awareness.
It's disappearing Americans when you are bringing people into this country who don't share our values and are not even given the opportunity or the requirement to learn what America stands for. You're disappearing us. And
I mean, I wish they would.
Australia, to me, is disappearing.
And I checked the map. It's still there.
I think absolutely, to an even greater extent, the UK. That is one of the saddest things I've seen. And there was a man on a breakfast show recently, a 100-year-old veteran, who was talking about the fact that he lost friends and family during wars to fight for a country that he says does not exist anymore.
Which side was he on?
And he said, you know, I think that the willingness to give your life is an incredible thing, and most brave, courageous, amazing people in countries who join the military are willing to do that.
Countries that join the military?
As long as it's not in vain. They're willing to give their lives because they know that it may contribute to the kind of country they want their grandkids to grow up to.
I mean, in the case of Britain, it is almost always just to invade somebody else's.
To live in and grow up in. And to watch this 102-year-old man on a couch, close to tears, saying, we actually died in vain. And
well, I mean, it sounds like what he's saying is that I mean, his side lost World War II. But I just noticed it is time to wrap up. Thank you to everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I will be back at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time this coming Friday. Also, just an update on the Inessa Armand translation project, which after I took a bit of a break from it to come back to it with fresh eyes, and I am now most of the way through the last of the essays in the collection that I'm translating. She had a lengthy essay on women in the various internationals that is quite interesting, and I have a couple of thousand words left to go on it, and a couple of grand left to fundraise. So, in order to cover the entire project, which also includes her correspondence. So, all support for that project is much appreciated, and you will find the draft translations on my Patreon, which is here. Yes, it is.